Welcome to High Performance, the podcast featuring Josh Phegan and Alexander Phillips. Alexander, today we're going to talk about an interesting topic, and we get a lot of this in training, and it's about why age is no barrier. And sometimes I meet young people that tell me that, they're too young to be able to be in front of a consumer and actually, do the prospecting or the listing, and they have a real sense of delay about when they can actually go to be an agent. And other times I get to meet people that tell me that they're old and they're only 5 or 10 years older than me, and I start to think, wow, really that's just a mindset. So talk to me a little bit about, is age a barrier, and what are the things that people can do to maybe counteract their perceptions that other people might have of them based on their age?
Joshy, I think it's a mental thing. Like, I think if you're good enough, you're old enough. We did a training session in our office yesterday around this, and we're talking about if you started out again and you're 21, how are you going to build confidence with a potential vendor when you're sitting in front of them? And the best way of doing that is product knowledge, knowing every property in the marketplace, every sale, every auction, the first bid, the last bid, the vendor bid, the layouts, having brochures of every property that you've inspected, not just through you, but other agents, and going to all auctions. So when you're sitting down with that potential vendor, you know what you're talking about, you understand the market, and that's probably the easiest way to get an understanding of obviously a particular marketplace. So having, going back to a patch that you work in and knowing every street, every cafe owner, and also, every house in that neighbourhood. So I think, when I started out, we'll always, talk, because, John McGrath was selling houses when he was 20, that, it's a mindset. And if you go out there and you have confidence around the product knowledge, plus obviously skills in negotiations and doing training day in, day out, you can overcome those, objections or fears of a vendor. But I think it's also understanding what your competitive advantage is over another potential agent that you're competing against. And I keep saying to my guys in our office that, well, guys, you're in the office every day at 7:15. You're making 400 or 500 calls a week. You're getting in front of more buyers more often. That's your competitive advantage that you need to be talking about when you're sitting in that listing appointment. So you can obviously show that you're hungry, you're motivated. That other agent that's 55 years old, that's complacent, doesn't get in till 9:30, starts making calls at 11. You've already made 50 calls for that potential, sale, that you're just way ahead of everybody.
So I think that's a really important point. And, like when I first started out, even in the training business, I was looking at this the other day. We're heading into our 10th year in being a coaching business. And, I was thinking, geez, when I actually started the training business, I was pretty audacious at the time, but yet I knew no difference. I just sort of made a decision that that's something that I wanted to go and do. And I think that that's exactly the same thing that happens in a great real estate career, is that you just make a decision to go pro. And that people don't really look at age at all. What they actually look down to is skill and experience. And there's no doubt that there's going to be sacrifices. You're going to have to make the choices of no longer being in nightclubs and making sure that you actually get home and that you look after yourself, and that diet and exercise is going to become critically important. But being a great agent is really about the sacrifices, rather than being in a position that you're out there thinking that you can go and do all of those things. And what's important here is to understand that when you learn to ask great questions, when you've actually got the knowledge, that radically changes it, because what people are really looking for is people that have got capability and competence. And so I think that regardless of age, you can do that. One of the important things to do to really be able to build that level of capability and competence is to surround yourself with great mentors. Why are mentors such an important part of agents becoming much, much better at a younger age in terms of skill growth and development in order to be able to grow in their career?
Because I think it sets a benchmark of who you want to be, and it helps you set the bar, as high as possible. Like, when I was playing basketball when I was 10 years old, Michael Jordan was the guy that I looked up to, and continue to do so. That was the best player in history. When I started real estate, Ivan Brezic, John McGrath, those guys were the people that set really high benchmarks, that you knew that they were the guys that you wanted to get to that level. And it's also having a mentor of someone that you can actually bounce ideas off or call, to get some advice, or when you're in a tough spot, like I do with you, Josh, and like I've done with Ivan over the years. That I think it makes you feel that there's comfortable, that there's someone out there that's going to help you as well, but that understands the industry and understands what you're about, that you do want to become the best in the business.
Yeah, there's an old book, The Old Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and one of the things that he talks about in there is actually setting up what he calls like a virtual boardroom. And I really took to this concept pretty quickly where I'd say, okay, great, think about all the different areas in your life, so like travel, adventure, creativity, family life, professional life, what actually is that you want to do around health and all of those things, and start to think about who are the mentors that you've actually got in each of those areas. So, as I get to meet some of these great people over time, I look at individual elements of what they do, and I'd say, I want to take 5% of that. So I'd say when I would see Ivan, for example, getting in and doing the intensity in his calls and how serious he was with his individual teams, I really said, okay, great, I want to take 5% of that. When I saw someone like a Matt Hayson around how he would actually go about marketing, I'd say I really want to be driven about how Matt does videos because I like what he does there. When I'd see the level of intensity and learning how to run a year, I'd follow what you'd do and say, okay, great, well, when Alex takes holidays, that's when I should take holidays as well, as that really seems to work on the inside of his business. And so what actually starts to happen is that you can actually see people that inspire you to become greater and better around those particular skill bases. One of the other things, Alex, too, about age being no barrier is that sometimes you meet people that are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s that are telling you that maybe they're too old now and that maybe all the young ones are actually eating them up. What can you do when we get to the other side of life to ensure that we're actually in that position, that we've still got that same level of tenacity and hunger to get out there and actually go and win business and earn great fees?
Like I said, Josh, I think a lot of people become complacent, that they've been there, done that they're the top of their field, that they feel like a sense of ownership in some ways. So I think the best way of getting over that, because I think agents are getting younger, smarter and fitter, and that's the way you got to look at it. If you want to be, competing when you get into your 40s and 50s against these younger guys, you've got to think like they do. You've got to still go to the gym every morning. You've got to eat the right food. You've got to have the right intensity. If you've got families and kids and you can't be in the office at 7:15 every morning, well, when you're on and you're working 100%. So you show that same amount of enthusiasm, but you've got so much more experience. So I think it's making sure that you remain, obviously, you train yourself continually, both in the real estate game and personally, and you continue to get better as well. Like that, you keep adapting to change and you keep, moving with how fast paced, that the industry is moving at the moment.
I think the big driver there is that always make sure that you're really hungry and that you've got a bigger view for a bigger future than the one you've had in your past. And that ultimately to be a great agent, regardless of age, is actually about getting depth of that. And, just to finish on this, I was talking to a client this week that's mid-40s. He said to me, look, to be honest, I'm really bored. I've lost my mojo. I'm not quite there anymore. He goes, I've already set myself up financially. I'm just kind of a bit done with life. What else do I do? And I'm thinking, man, you're only maybe even a quarter, possibly halfway through, expectancy in life, and you're already talking like it's already done. And I said to him, you've got to get more energetic and more driven around what the goals are and the things that you want to go and achieve, and really find what that purpose is that you actually want to achieve out of the business. And that ultimately, real estate is a really rewarding career, and there is no ceiling on how much income that you can earn. But you know what? There's also no floor. So get really clear that build a better team, get people around you, bite off a bigger goal, make a decision to actually build on all of the things that you know, rather than feel that you've got to the point of mastery and you're no longer hungry to actually learn. I think that's the better thing. Get better mentors, make better decisions, and grow regardless of your age.